I don't believe in isms, and I think I need to explain what I mean, because nobody talks about isms, but they do talk about socialism, and they do talk about capitalism, and they do talk about other ideologies, and I'm not interested in ideologies in that sense. Why not? Because I now see them as harmful. Our politics has become obsessed by binary position taking. In other words, capitalism is opposed to socialism. But when you look at it, the supposedly capitalist parties in the UK aren't really promoting capitalism to the exclusion of all else, because by definition, politicians want to be in government, and therefore they aren't opposed to the existence of government because they want to run and control it. And as we have seen from decades of Tory party rule, whenever they get into office, they don't shrink the size of government very much because they discover it's really rather useful. And the same is true of supposed socialists. They don't believe in the ownership and control of all the means of production by the people who work for the organisations in question, because first of all, that would exclude those who don't work, and that wouldn't be fair. And secondly, because there isn't a mechanism to do this that we know about which would be fair, because private business clearly has a role to play in our society. Some people don't want to work for others. They do want to work for themselves. They can create ideas. They do create employment opportunities and so on. And there aren't really, therefore, any socialists in the sense of people who believe in this idea of the ownership and control of all the resources of society by workers in any great number in the UK anymore. So why do we then have isms? Well, it's a very good question, because as far as I can see, this whole mantra of I'm on the left and I'm on the right and we're never going to agree on anything is all a complete sham and charade. The reality is that both Labour and Conservatives, and throw into this mix, if you wish, the SNP in Scotland, who obviously run a government, and the Lib Dems, who would love to run a government but haven't done so for over a century, and they all basically believe in the same thing, that we have a mixed economy, where we find the compromises to make things work. Therefore, all the ideologies, except perhaps around Scottish independence, that those parties actually pronounce about, are really pretty superfluous, because they don't actually identify anything, except points on which these politicians like to nitpick with each other. I don't know about you, but I'm fed up with politicians who nitpick with each other over these ideological points. I'm bored by the gameplay that goes on when it is claimed that the free market provides solutions when there's no such thing as a free market. And I'm as bored by those who claim that the free market is the enemy of everything that is good, because private enterprise can be of benefit. I'm not worried about those fights because they're meaningless. What I am worried about is the fact that people are not getting the homes they need, the incomes they need, the jobs that they need, the support for their children that they need, the care that they need, the health care that they need, the justice that they need. Those are the things that matter now in politics. We don't need to worry about the isms, is my point. Those isms are actually harming the delivery of what we need. The politicians might want to play games around their ideology, but I want to talk about practicality. If we have good housing, good healthcare, good social care, good justice systems, and everything else that I've just mentioned, we can afford the luxury of a discussion about the idealistic, ideological solutions to the purity of the world which politicians like to debate. They can then go away and play around those issues wherever they wish. But the precondition is that they've solved those other problems. And right now, they'd rather play with the isms than actually deliver what we need in reality. And that's why I say I'm not interested in isms anymore. Because I believe that the truth is that a mixed economy based upon meeting need is what every political party in the UK is eventually going to be about, if we are to actually get what the people of this country want. And therefore, let's stop pretending that we disagree with each other, and instead let's discuss what it is that we need to make our priorities. I can accept political difference between those who think that net zero is more important than economic growth. I can accept a difference between those who think that education has a higher priority than healthcare. Those are points of practical choice which all management systems will require people to decide upon. But to pretend that ideology actually answers those questions is absurd. Those are practical appraisals of the allocation of resources within a society. And so I'm looking for politicians who understand that we, as 67 million people in the UK, can create enough wealth to sustain ourselves. We don't need to look outside. We might occasionally need to bring in some people who've got abilities that we don't seem to have in sufficient amount. We might want to provide the opportunity for people to invest in this country, the same as we might want opportunity to invest elsewhere. But at the end of the day, we as a country are going to be responsible for our own well-being. And with that many people and the financial resources that this country has, we could make the choices to deliver and meet the real needs of people in this country. But getting waylaid by ideological purity is something that will always prevent that. And therefore, let's concentrate on delivering on needs and then enjoy the luxury of having a philosophical debate. But let's make needs come first.